So, I guess I'll just call this meeting to order now, and, I guess we'll read the minutes and approve them.
Thank you. Hi, Richard.
You guys want the minutes from the last meeting? Do we get for 'em? Yeah. You all set, Becca? You guys all
The
set?
only change is what I circled there.
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay, cool.
Wrong place.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from December 9th.
Second, Pat. All in favor?
Great.
And now, the annual report, I guess, from Zach.
So mainly it's just if you don't see something there,
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to
as
get
you
one, sorry.
probably know, it has to fit all in one page. So it's a little bit of a challenge to get the whole year on one page, but so.
There's a sign in too, if you guys wanna.
Oh, I thought I lost it. I sent a different one around. Yeah. I knew it was something. Or if you see something that's incorrect, obviously, or it's hard to get more detail in there, but if you
Yeah.
think it should be there, then.
We took a lot this year.
Yeah.
Thanks, Zach.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Do we need to vote to have you send it in?
I guess,
Mm,
yeah,
probably.
yeah,
Sure.
It was in February, I think it was the
was, yeah.
23rd.
thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have to vote to approve the annual report?
Yeah.
Are you guys, I guess I'll make a motion to approve Zach's awesome annual report.
Second.
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
So, then the next thing on it. It's just for the,
Oh, sorry.
for the thing.
I touched it as
So I guess we're just gonna like go over the plastics things with, I think Jake just like.
Yeah, so last meeting I volunteered to call two people or two organizations that seem to respond to our call. We put out a call, when was it, about a month ago, to see who was interested in creating like new plastic gear or different alternatives to plastic gear for agriculture. And we got a bunch of responses, but two of them we could take action on. I called the Department of Agriculture in Florida, and they are trying to come up with a clam net that I guess, what's the word for it? Biodegrades within 5 years. They're really in the beginning stages. At first they mentioned maybe sending some net up here for us to try, but they didn't have the funding to it. So they said to us that if we are able to come up with some funding or get somebody to organize this project, that they would definitely be interested in maybe partnering with us in the future. And the second person I talked to was a plastics company in North Carolina, I think, and he basically was looking for what industry needs. He wanted us to further explain exactly what we were looking for. He was supposed to send a follow-up email, which he didn't, so I didn't end up getting back to him. But if that's something we want to put together, or just hold off on it now and wait for somebody else to take this over that has more time, we could do it that way too.
So I had talked to Dave about an idea where if like a small job description or project description was crafted by SAB, I could send it over to the AmeriCorps House in Wellfleet and see if there was any member there that was looking for more volunteer hours and interested in supporting Shellfish Advisory through this plastics project.
Cool. Yeah.
Do you think anybody, would anyone of you guys wanna work with a AmeriCorps person so that the Shellfish department doesn't have to do much with it? You guys, would like one of you guys wanna like just help an AmeriCorps person out?
In what way?
Like, I don't know.
Talk to them.
I don't really know, so,
So I was saying, like, you guys sculpt like a project description for your plastics project, what you're looking for. You need somebody to organize it, you need somebody to reach out, kind of do what Jake was doing, reach out to people, create a spreadsheet, options, maybe even do a little research and, bring it back to the committee each month and work maybe with one person that's delegated to kind of oversee, just to make sure that if they have any questions, they have somebody to go to. And then I'd be happy to put it over to the AmeriCorps House and see if there was a member there that could pick it up as a side volunteer project.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
description can be used for things like that, to go to AmeriCorps and other places, is that what you mean?
Just what it is that you guys want to
Something that
accomplish
comes
with
over
this
my head.
plastics project.
Yeah.
And what kind of help you think you'd need. And then if there's somebody over there, they would just come and volunteer and be like your administrative assistant, or somebody that could work in tandem with one of the members of the Shellfish Advisory Board to advance the goal that Shellfish Advisory wants to take on with this plastics project.
what if they just worked with the whole board and just came to a SAB meeting, and then we could just be like, hey, what's going on with that?
I could be their contact person.
And Becca will be the
Okay.
contact. Awesome.
And
Answer questions.
answer
and-
brief
yep.
questions, so they don't have to bring everything to us.
That'd be cool.
And then every time you have a meeting, they can be updating you on, just like
Yeah,
Jake did, but
just-
they might have more time to follow leads down than you guys have.
That'd be awesome. So you would give, you, Becca, and AmeriCorps person would get in touch, and that would, all right, cool.
So the first thing we need to do is like craft a little project description of
Yes.
what your goals are and what some of the work might be.
All right.
You might want to contact the recycling committee, because you have like Lonnie and
Lydia?
Lydia. They might be good at helping you craft, like, because they're really into the whole, but it's just a suggestion.
They seem like they really want to do that.
Yeah, so maybe we could put this AmeriCorps person in touch with them, because it's really, we got a lot of great responses when we put it out there, but it's really just having somebody coordinate everything, and that's what's getting kind of lost, because everyone's sending emails to us, and
Yeah,
it's
we
just
need
a
a
lot.
contact
So the
person,
most
we need a
important
focus.
thing, and I'm not hearing from any of you, it isn't that it biodegrades. It's that it doesn't biodegrade into microplastics.
Yes.
Yeah, so that would,
And
but I think we're just talking about just like crafting a,
yes, but wait a minute. So they'll tell you it biodegrades.
Yeah.
And from everything I know, what's preferable is you can see it when you get it out of there. You see? And then people get slammed in on with enforcement when they throw their ties.
Yeah, totally.
But if the dry rights to bioplastics, that's really not good.
Yeah, that was something that one of the company was talking about, whether, you want it not to biodegrade, or you want it to, I guess, break up into something less harmful. Maybe bioplastic's the wrong word, maybe it's a totally different material that's less harmful.
it's pretty.
That breaks
yeah,
down.
It seems pretty clear that that's like what is, like, we're trying to get at, is it doesn't break down into microplastics. Like, and I think we're
Yeah,
just
I'm
trying
ready
to
to
get
use the wrong
like
word.
start somewhere, So whenever we get this stuff, like I send it out to like the Center for Coastal Studies and all that, and that's like the main concern, is that it doesn't break down into like something even smaller for something else to eat and kill everything else. So
And my second point, and I'm gonna shut up. So let's say you find a firm that manufactures something that's usable, or wood, and they say it doesn't break down into microplastics. What you then have to do is pin them down on what it does break down to.
yeah, that's what we've been.
And then
doing.
you find out what those long words.
It's pretty straightforward. Like, I mean, you can. That's that's what we've been doing. So yeah.
That's
So
where I'm at.
so Beck, do you want to just like make like a brief like thing, like a write up? No.
What do we want?
So
We
how
have somebody
about
to help organize.
organize the information we get from plastics manufacturers and anybody really reaching out to the SAB, and what kind of information, like delineating what kind of information it is, if it's like a manufacturer or an idea or somebody explaining like what Helen was saying, like does it break down, is it a question,
And also, if somebody wants to do like some research to see what's out there and what's going on.
because there is some pretty simple solutions that are already out there that we just don't really
Yeah.
know, like we just don't do because we don't know about them. or we just don't look into it, so. And then maybe that final project could be like that, show and tell that you were saying, like, just, this is what I came up with, work with it. And I know Ketchum too, I talked to Ketchum Trap and I forgot to go to the town hall, they sent me some, like, lanolin bags, so instead of market bags that we could use, if somebody wants to, like, use those to sell their oysters in, instead of a plastic bag, so.
What are they?
Lanolin, it's like sheep or cotton kind of material, organic stuff.
I'm curious to see that.
You good with that?
And if you want, I can send me an account too.
Yeah.
And then I'll send over a copy, you guys.
Trying to avoid having to organize that part.
Are you all set with that, Beck?
For now.
Alright. Alright, so I guess are you guys all set with talking about plastics? For now? Alright, cool. And then we were gonna, I forgot my shellfish management plan.
I can call it up,
That's,
unless you did.
I have like everything at home.
I'm gonna skip to the Herring River project.
What were you thinking of doing with it this
Well,
meeting?
I guess I just wanted to update like the very basic, I highlighted everything that needed to get updated just from, old figures to new figures. And that was pretty much all that I wanted to update. And it was pretty straightforward. I don't know if you guys read the Shellfish Management Plan or.
Do you want to do it next meeting?
Yep.
Okay.
Alright, well, I'll bring that in next meeting and we can just go over it real quick. And then Stephen wanted to talk about the Herring River project and any concerns with it. And I think Zach is like, you're like the,
I'm a part of the stakeholders group, so I'm like the liaison.
between them, so if anybody from the public wanted to talk about the Herring River or bring something up to the SAB to discuss, that's why it's on there, so.
Have you had a stakeholders meeting?
Not since our last meeting here.
Okay, yeah.
What I did do is the main issue that Stephen and others have brought up is the whole liability or plan, contingency plan, if anything unforeseen happens. And the lack of the plan, lack of insurance or anything like it. And the question seems to be being asked again and again. And I guess the basic answer is that it's really not expected to have any type of negative impact. And the situation that we're in now with like the fecal coliform counts and the fact that it's closed is kind of more of a danger to the shellfishing community than anything once the project is initiated, that anything that could happen there. So taking that into account, I just emailed Martha, and she actually just got back to me today because she was out of town. But the email that I wrote to her, I'm just going to read it verbatim. I said, there's been more concern expressed at the last SAB meeting regarding the Herring River Restoration Project's lack of a contingency plan in the event of shellfish bed closures due to the project. I feel that the question has been asked repeatedly, but no definitive answer has been given. Am I correct that there is no contingency plan in place in case of a shellfish bed closure and no plans to develop such a plan? And she said, as you know, the restoration of shellfish resources is a primary objective of the Herring River Restoration Project, as John Portnoy explained at the Herring River Stakeholders Group meeting. As John Portnoy explained at the Herring River Stakeholders Group meeting, Egg Island shellfish resources are currently at risk of fecal coliform contamination under existing dike management. I think we should discuss your questions in the ways the project is designed to protect shellfish stakeholders' interests. I just learned the SAB is scheduled to discuss the project tonight. No one from the project was notified, but we will attempt to have some friends of the Herring River Board members attend. We also like to schedule a detailed presentation or discussion with the SAB at a later time. So as I was driving over here, my thoughts, I'm in agreement with their position basically, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to have some type of liability or some type of a mitigation plan in place. And I guess my basic question that came to my mind is what are the impediments to the project having a fund, an insurance, a plan to move stuff? Why wouldn't they do that? What's stopping the project from doing that? Those are my basic thoughts on it. And what I'm hearing from the sole question really from the community is, what if? That's what I'm getting when I ask people what.
John Footnote from Friends of Herring River. And this, actually, we have a document, looks like it was produced in October, so maybe some of you have seen it, but outlines the monitoring plan around Herring River restoration to protect shellfish resources. Copies I can pass out.
Yeah,
And,
good.
and it speaks to the contingency plan. And some of those go around here.
Thank you.
I have 10 more of those. If you want to copy, there it is.
Oops.
Everybody got one?
I don't have one yet.
So if you have any questions on that, Robert and Francis and I do answer them. When you ask about mitigation and contingency plans, our view is the adaptive management plan you've probably heard a lot about is the contingency plan. We worry a lot about shellfish resources, we always have. If you have specific concerns about what might happen, like sediment transport or eco-coal farm changes, we'd love to hear them so we can modify or perhaps modify the monitoring plan to address those concerns, but we need the specifics.
And one thing that I forgot to mention when I met with Martha and Tim was that both of them, and especially Tim, was kind of really wanted to get a working group together from people from the community because they don't really have a lot of science with the oysters and growing oysters, is what he was saying, and they need data, so to speak. Even it wouldn't be a real scientific method, but they need feedback for when the project starts, what's going on. That's what Tim was telling me. So that's something that we can continue to bring up here, and he's actively looking for people in the shellfishing community to do that.
All right. I have 2 ideas so far.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that because I just learned about it in the last few weeks that in order to do adaptive management, you need feedback from a lot of sources. So I think that the project proponents are looking for the idea of a small working group from the SAB. It doesn't have to be you folks, but people you know who are growers or commercial shellfishermen who would want to help and give feedback for this type of adaptive management plan. And it would be a small working group that would look at all of these issues from all different perspectives, from the science, from your actual experience out on the flats, and those kind of things. But we haven't really settled on who's going to convene this group, and we thought if this is something of interest, maybe you know some people who would be involved and can send us their names, and we can start this type of project. But we need to know what your thoughts are in order to respond. So we can't respond on that. And we all talked about the ideas of insurance and all these other things, but this working group can look at these things board, but if this is something that interests, you should contact Martha and we can get this going.
Rich.
Yeah, my family's been in the construction business my whole life. And every construction project is bonded. You're acting like a bunch of two-bit hoodlums. Bond the project, you'll get everybody behind you, nobody will be against you, just bond the project. You're going to have major equipment down there. You're going to have more than one person down there. So if you have more than one, that means trouble. Trouble could conceivably happen. It's not, there shouldn't be focus groups about whether we have insurance or not. We have insurance. Each and every one of us has insurance probably on our grants. Our cars have insurance. Everything has insurance. Our homes. Insure this project, get everybody on board, and we'll be done with this. We'll be done with this. Thank you.
Just to add to that, every contractor involved in this will have insurance. The project itself, there is no way to insure it because it's being funded by federal and state agencies who do not offer this kind of insurance. But every aspect of the project will have insurance. And this is something that the working group, this group that we put together, can learn to understand as we go through and learn what the elements of the project are.
Well, I think that maybe a small working group wouldn't be good because there's just so many different people that would be affected that are interested in it. So probably you would want to like involve everybody, and I think everybody here seems like the working group. You have a working group here already, and I'm sure that maybe the Friends of Herring River could reach out to this side of the room and maybe communicate directly with them, you know? So I don't know how, if the Shellfish Advisory board is the place where this has happened, like it seems like it's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like you're getting your feedback right now. So it seems like, I mean, I would like some sort of insurance, and I don't know if these companies are going to insure the Picards if they lose all their oysters for some reason. And it seems like you guys don't know because you don't have enough data from the shellfishermen, like Zach had said, that it's kind of a stalemate here. Like you guys are like, we need help, and these guys are like, what's going on? So
I had one more thought about insurance and all that, is that maybe we're barking up the wrong tree, and that the project itself isn't the liable party. Is that correct? I mean, it's the town. Right? I mean, I need some clarification on that.
yeah,
So, this is a question I've asked repeatedly, like for 4 years. The deciders here, with a lot of advice, is the Herring River Executive Council. Okay?
Right.
That is an intergovernmental group.
so you asked them?
No, I've tried to clarify this.
Okay.
And here's the clarity. This intergovernmental group, unique and desirable, because it's the park doing something they almost never do. I don't know about the rest of the country, but it's really unusual. The park has said, and the town has said, we make decisions together. That's what the executive council is. It has park representatives and people from the town. They're the deciders with advice from the technical team. And I want to tag on, if I may, tag on to what Richard said. Richard's absolutely right. So there are two issues where there could be difficulty. One is when it's being built, put together. You know, Mill Creek Dike, one set of issues, and those contractors are all bonded, right? That's normal. We've known that for years. I suggest that this group, not a little special side group, but this kind of group, that you have an agenda item, you tell people that it's particularly to get information, to give the people who are doing the contracting jobs, to put this together, building the bridge and so forth, so that they know ahead of time what might be harmful to shellfishing in general from that construction chapter. Later, the really accountable people, and there would be a fix for this. There's going to be monitoring. There's monitoring now for baseline. There's going to be more monitoring, okay? And it's about water chemistry, it's about fecal coral, you know what it's about.
Yeah.
It's about 20 million things. This group should request, as part of the ongoing capital management plan, regular reports on what that data is as it's coming out of the monitoring stations and, the water quality measuring. So that this community, as you go along, is fully apprised as to what's happening, why it's happening, because that hasn't been going on really. This group, in public meetings, on TV, you know how many hits you have? You guys have more hits than any other committee, well. And this group can get a lot of information out about it, and therefore get information from the public, will give you feedback, having watched the meetings or shown up. And I think you should be getting regular reports sent to all of you and the Shellfish Department, and get you a little more aware of them for a variety of reasons having to do with your normal work. And that should happen hot and heavy every meeting once it gets implemented. Should include you guys knowing about what's going on as it's unfolding. And giving response immediately to the Executive Council, to the Technical Committee, right? So there are two things. Give the people you bond, the contractors, a sense of what could go wrong for shellfishing during the construction phase. And the second part is, the minute it starts happening, you guys have your fingers on the pulse. That's my idea of a fix.
Well, it seems like you know what we have to do. It would be good if maybe you did the working committee for this, between them and them.
Does anybody on the board feel like they're up to interpreting that data?
No.
Yes, well, that's why you have people.
I would suggest, rather than every meeting having a big discussion, maybe the Shellfish Advisory Board would consider 2 meetings a year devoted to this, where folks who are interested, have opinions, can come, and this could be the working group, rather than pulling people out for separate meetings and more committees and more groups, that you just have on your agenda just twice a year, just this topic. Everybody knows and everyone can come, and that could be the working group. We can get Friends of Herring River here, we can get the scientists here, we can get the technical committee people here, we can get the shellfishermen and growers here, and have this kind of discussion.
I think that's a good idea. We could do that. We could probably do it more than twice a year. But I also think that
Seasonally.
what will happen is that we'll talk about it here. But I feel like if you really want to get some good data, the people sitting there, like, you're gonna have to like go out there and go to the Picard's grant and go to Richard's grant and like be like, this is what's happening, and hear their concerns one-on-one. And what, a lot of people on Egg Island are hearing, and like what they're saying too, because it's gonna differ than what Richard's saying. So what were you gonna say, Richard?
Well, I was just going to say that a hydraulic system is 5,000 psi, and you get a hole in line. It's a lot of oil in a little bit of time, and it's sure maybe. We know what's going to go, we know what's going to happen, at the problem, but we don't know about downriver. And how can we be assured when that spill gets downriver to somebody's grant, and the shit hits the fan, how do we know? You know, I mean, I'm worried about this. You know, it seems to be, everything is just wonderful with this project. I'm telling you, there is going to be difficult times with this project. There's going to be hard times. It's not going to go over like, you know, we think it is. Are we all on board for that? I'm just not exactly on board. So, and I haven't asked around. I need that fear taken away from me. That's why I say the project should be bonded. It's got to be bonded.
So, Friends of Herring River, I'm sure you just heard that, you know, so like, maybe, maybe in like a few meetings, you could come back to us and be like, this is what will happen if a hydraulic line blows, this is where your oysters are gonna go.
Well, this is what we have to hear. Before we can
Right.
respond, we have to hear this.
You can put food grade hydraulic oil in these, make sure this equipment all has food grade hydraulic oil.
Do you guys wanna make a list of some stuff right now, and we could give it to you, or you could make
Yeah, make a list, give it to us.
we could do it,
This is what the working group was gonna do, but it
Well,
doesn't have to be a separate working.
we could just do it right now, just to get it over with, so that you guys have something to walk away with and then come back to.
So I have questions about the dredging along the same lines.
Yep, I think that's on the next.
Whether there's any combination between what the town can do and what's going on with this. So, moving on.
Let's do that next.
So what?
So, I'm just gonna say, so, you know, people are worried about hydraulic lines.
Okay.
Hydraulic lines. Anything else?
One thing that's been brought up a lot is moving shellfish, and I guess, Nancy, do you think there's any likelihood, like I wasn't even thinking maybe just from the Herring River, but if anything happened in town to somebody's grant got shut down for water quality issues, like would there ever be any likelihood of being able to move product? I know other municipalities, I mean, some places have to grow it out in one area, then move it out to a deeper area.
Like decoration.
Yeah, I mean, is there any
Well, but
thing
we
that
haven't
could-
obviously thought of it.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
So
we
we
never
have to
had
look at-
to. So, I mean, it's something that keeps being brought up with this project is being
Yeah.
able to move product in case something happens. I mean, I don't know what would happen, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't matter, but
I think it would be important to understand, like, I guess, volume and.
Yeah.
Because I'm, just think around the harbor, okay, so then does that mean that we sacrifice our wild fisheries in order to accommodate grant product?
does the state have anything? I mean, I know to establish a grant, it has to, there's certain requirements, but does the state have anything that's like seasonal or would just be there for not a permanent amount of time?
Right, I mean, I think that's something that if we were gonna do that, we would bring it up to the state and then bring it here to discuss where the wild fishermen, if they were giving up bottom, they would need to have a say. I have heard people suggest on Great Island, I don't know why, but it seems like that had been talked about before, even though I know that's National Park. So maybe because National Park is part of this, that would be something to be looked into. I don't know what they would say.
So maybe the Friends of Herring River could talk to the Shellfish Department about shellfish decoration. You had said something about sediment, right? Sand moving, right, Stephen?
Biggest concern?
Alright, so sediment, around Egg Island, or what would you say, like sand or
Sand or silt.
Sand or-
Inches of tough blowouts when they're dormant.
sand
Come back to the surface.
and silt,
They're all
sediment,
gone.
sediment and its effects on cohogs.
This goes on when they're dormant, in the winter time, you end up with 2 or 3 inches of sediment on the top of this product.
comes out of dormancy, it's never gonna make it to the surface.
Do you
Seen
guys
it time and time again in South Wolfley, Blackfish Creek.
have,
So you're worried about that on Egg Island?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
The closest grant to the river.
Does it happen now without the project going on?
What?
Does it happen now without the project going on?
No. Not a problem with it.
Tiffany, I do know that, having sat in on a lot of the meetings, that they are going to be taking some of the stuff from the river and putting it on the marsh carefully, in other words, to build up the marsh. So it's not all going to be pushed out. Second thing is, you know what interests me here? Show that list to everybody involved with dredging, the dredging task force and the town administrator. Because the people that do the dredging need to know this too. They have just as much equipment, they are bonded, and they should be aware before they start about these risks, even though we've been dredging in a cyclical way for years.
alright, I'm gonna write down too, just because you reminded me of something, we're gonna write, can this project be bonded? And this project, Herring
For
River.
all the construction, it is going to have to be bonded,
Yeah.
right? But not really.
Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid with a federal project.
Yeah, you have to.
Okay,
And
that question will be answered, so it won't just, people will just have clarity on it.
But they have to know what the stakes are before you do it.
Alright, I think, I forgot your name back there.
Barbara.
Barbara, did you have your hand up?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I do,
I was just going to comment on the many studies of sediment transport, which show that sediment's going to be going upriver. I can't tell you how many studies have been done. It's on your list, and it's going to be monitored continuously. So I just want to say that that's something that the project and the scientists, and they're very much aware of that.
I'm just gonna put that down,
Yeah,
just
fine.
because I think it's something that's important to people, yeah, if it's just answered, like with this is my question A, this is answer here,
and
So,
I believe
or what is it called,
sediment transport studies.
sediment transport studies from,
Have
I
been
think
done.
people are worried about stuff coming out of the river.
Right, exactly.
So, okay,
And weren't they just working with setting up stations on Egg Island, given feedback that came from shellfishermen? I believe there's a new phase to the study about sediment transport.
I think it's on the list.
Okay.
The list that you just got, the studies that we did.
I don't know, when any current data is gonna be available, but
which one?
There's 3 different points here on sedimentation. There.
Alright, so I have hydraulic lines, break, I should just write equipment in case of equipment failure or any sort of spill.
Well, like on any dredge, they're all food grade hydraulic oil. And most boats, they're all food grade hydraulic oil. But when you get Joe Blow that's has low man on the totem pole as far as, the bidding goes, and he comes down, his machines aren't full of food grade hydraulic oil. Make sure they are. We can't afford to have a bunch of oil in the river if it's unavoidable at all. There's gonna be problems with this project. It's gonna be a lot of problems. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I
I think that's, yeah, I agree. So, Bob?
I think that you're going for the permits in January, there's going to be some public hearings for your permitting process.
Probably in February, we're going to have a series of public hearings for the first permit application that was submitted to the Cape Cod Commission. The first major hearing will be in Wellesley. It hasn't been scheduled yet, but everyone will know. Probably in February.
Maybe some of these issues may come up at that point. And one other question through you, if you could ask the scientists in their estimation tough call, but the fecal coli that exists behind the dike, the probability of migrating to and becoming a problem in the salinity outside the Herring River itself, if that's a feasible thing, or are we like paranoid for no reason, or it's likely, or I don't know how it migrates or its interaction with saline versus a freshwater source, but the probability or likelihood of fecal coli. Imagine sediment transport.
Okay,
and,
I get what you're saying.
And shutting down for pollution are the two
Yeah.
major concerns. If they have thought of that, and
Should, maybe probability of pollution / shutdown of.
right, I mean, you could ask them right now.
I could, if you want, I could shed a little light on that right now.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna clarify that, just so that I can write it down, so that, because if Bob's asking, other people will probably have that same question, so probability of pollution /
Fecal coli.
you know, probability of pollution, fecal coli, mixing in with,
No migrating from behind the dike
Okay.
into the harbor itself.
from behind dike into harbor. All right, John. Yeah.
Yeah, so you studied that back in 2005, existing conditions, been studied since then, but we're going to be repeating the sample of fecal coli this coming summer. Prompted to do that by comments to the state class stakeholders committee. It was a smart idea, so we're going to follow up. It's important to check to see if it's still as bad or maybe worse. In response to Bob's suggestion, fecal coliform, there's a reserve of fecal coliform around the structure, particularly just above the structure, because there's a lot of wildlife up there, particularly a lot of waterfowl in the wintertime, and cause any feces in the sediment, and it accumulates there because of that, and because of the poor flushing with clean Cape Larcod Bay water. We don't have that. We haven't had that since 1909. Also, it accumulates there and survives there. Its survival time is prolonged because the salinity is low, and the salinity is low because we're not getting enough Cape Cod Bay water in there. So, for those reasons, based on what we know about fecal coliform and what we know about the patterns in Herring River, we've been saying it's very likely the fecal coliform concentration seaward of the dike, where all those oysters are that people used to harvest, those concentrations should decrease by simple dilution with Cape Cod Bay water, and also increased salinity should reduce the survival time. These are normally bacteria that live in the guts of warm-blooded animals. They don't survive forever in the environment, and the higher salinity, the shorter their time span. So, from there to logic, figure out for yourselves. That's what those are the relationships.
I'd just like to point out that a lot of the river area is conditionally open now and has to pass the test in March. And that area seems to have expanded quite a bit because back in the 80s and 90s, you could fish all the way up to the dike, and now you can't. And so there's a closed area and then there's a conditional area. And all of the models, all of the science, everything's pointed to the fact that that problem will decrease and that more acreage will be open to wild harvest in that area now. Whereas now you're just waiting for that test in March to see when it can open.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, overall, it's gonna be much better once it's open because there's gonna be much more flow, the bacteria counts are all gonna go down. So there's no anticipation that the first time we open the dike, it's suddenly gonna be a big bloom of problem.
Well,
Because that sounds to me like what people are concerned about, is that overall, it's clearly gonna be better. But in that first couple of years, are these guys gonna suffer?
it's complicated because it depends on when the gate is first open. When it's first built, it's going to have the same exact hydrodynamics as it does now. When it's first open, there's a seasonality to it, and the executive committee is going to have to decide when that happens, and it'll probably be in the winter.
Okay.
And then things will be monitored at that point.
So this is where the adaptive management plans come in. So if they open it a little bit and there's a horrible bloom, they'll close it again.
Or close it again,
Okay.
or lower it, or see what the science is telling.
So the hope is that they'll be on top of all of the numbers fast enough that instead of these guys getting hit with a business shutting down bloom, that it's just gonna be open, close, if that needs to be.
It's not, it's more than a hope. That's the
Okay,
plan.
that's the plan. That
So-
there's good science behind that plan.
I have, John, I was,
If you go phone test, it only takes 24 hours.
Okay,
And when the first gate is open, I know that the scientists are going to be all over that water collecting. So we'll also have sediment suspension, and we'll have people call them results in 24 hours. And this, the first opening is going to be very modest, so it's really unlikely that we'll get a lot of sediment and coliform suspension in the wall.
is there a plan to open it during the time that it's traditionally been closed anyway? So that it won't affect harvest in that area? Is that,
The tentative plan was to open up, now, you know, the
Yeah, I mean,
10 more meetings than I do now.
Yeah, well, actually more than that, although he knows more than I do about this. So, the way it is now, it's not open and closed at all, it's just open a certain
no,
way.
I mean the season being opened.
No,
So,
no, it's
okay,
not
so it's
adjusted
closed.
at all,
Okay.
partly because it's kind of screwed up as a structure.
Mhm.
That was a highly technical description. Barbara Bredesol, just referred to, what did she just refer to? Anyway, the really crucial place, and this is why you guys, there's nobody stupid in this room. I know most of you. And I sat with you in Shellfish Committee meetings where Roxanne has given you highly technical scientific data to look at. And why didn't that happen last year? And when I was saying, in the initial stages of this, I think this group, which includes people in the audience showing up and watching it on TV and official meetings, therefore we get to pay Ms. Valco to film them, is going to be all over the data. And you should ask for a lot of participation from, people that are aware of it in the Herring River group. And the thing I'm really worried about is that the executive council is not going to be as up to speed as you are, but they will listen to you in a way that they don't listen to the stakeholders. I listen to the stakeholders, the others do probably, but the shellfish stuff needs more scrutiny than you're getting from that general group staff, okay? And I would think that the first year, part of the adaptive management would be not only the data that's being collected scientifically, but you guys being really aware of what's going on.
all right,
Okay?
I'm just gonna say, so with what Becca said, like, and what was going on and how you said that like within 24 hours, like you would get a pretty good idea of what was happening. I guess the main question though, like that everybody's still asking is like, so like what does happen if a hydraulic line blows or if the sediment doesn't go upriver or what, like what happens when like there's like an oil spill in the harbor? Like what happens to, what do you do?
There's a whole management response that's coordinated by the harbor masters, but also it has like a whole series of protocols that the DEP establishes. And there's that trailer right next to our office that has all the containment.
It gets shut down, right? Or that.
It could be, yeah.
So what happens if the Herring River, I guess, this is where all the questions are coming from. So like what happens if, I don't know, an excavator falls into the river and do these guys get bailed out because of that? Do I get bailed out because of that?
I actually had that, I was gonna ask you to add to your list, like if a construction company does harm, what, the next day, what does it look like? Like is it time for a private attorney? Is the town behind us? Is it the Shellfish Advisory Board?
Like in August when like everybody's trying to crank out money, that would be the worst. Like, I don't think people would be able to recover from that, what's the answer to that question? Friends of Herring River, not Helen.
It's on my list, I have not thought excavator falling into the river?
But it's on that list. And in the technical committee, this has come up more than once. Unlike the dredging, which, depends on people's equipment, machine. But the dredging equipment comes from other towns who have to schedule it according to their needs. The thing about opening the Herring River for, with concern for what might happen to the fishery, that's completely by choice, right? And it should happen at a time when there is the least chance of affecting things negatively if they don't go well. The dredging thing is way out of our control compared to that. They say they can come, we have to say yes. They say jump, we say okay. And this is much more manageable.
The other thing that, again, there's a lot of the adaptive management plan, like, there's so much science saying that everything's going to go flow upriver, but what everybody is still asking is like, what if it doesn't? And I know it's questioning science, like I understand like where you're like, come on, but what if, like what does happen to the people whose whole lives are based on this, and where does that leave them?
Right, well, that's part of the plan. So everything that happens is monitored, and then there's some kind of response. So there'll be scientists, there'll be the executive committee.
Right, I think I'm asking though, like, so does, like, if the harbor gets shut down, what does Zach get? Does he get like $100 grand? Does he get like bailed out for like what he would have sold in that month? Or does the Picards like get to move all of their clams? Or does the Friends of Herring River pay for that? Or does the state or federal government pay for that? Or and I think people just want a definitive answer to those questions.
I guess we're trying to make a point, the adaptive management plan is trying to make a point, it's designed so that it sees bad things happening at the first step.
Right.
Before it can
Right.
damage somebody's brand. We're not open this big bridge thing, tiny amount the first step, and monitor sediment resuspension.
Right.
Because somebody's worried about getting buried in sediment downstream.
I guess it's like the adaptive management plan of like when you get in your car to drive, like you put your seatbelt on, you make sure you have your airbags, and you
don't
check your.
Route 6 because you make small adjustments.
Right, but if you have a seizure, or if a drunk driver hits you, you have insurance, and that's what we're asking for, because we take all the precautions, and we're all good drivers, but like that stuff does happen. So we just want the answer to that.
I just want to make one point. That dike structure is 50 years old. It's probably exceeded its lifetime. Should it start not functioning properly, there will be no insurance. There will be no adaptive management. You will be at the mercy of what happens to that structure, and the town is not in a position to repair or rebuild it. So having a structure which can be controlled and which scientists and others will respond to, no one will respond or monitor if something happens now.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I think that's what Beck's saying about dredging too. But I think we all understand that like it's not a good situation, and like Becca said, like I think in a few years, we all know that this is great and all. But we can say that that's not we know that it's not a great situation that it is now. But that doesn't change the fact that there's still not an answer for if we drive off the road or if we get in a head-on collision. That's like saying like the Sagamore Bridge needs repair and a new bridge will be really good, but we know that like
It's gonna suck between now and then.
Excuse me. I keep hearing the same story over and over again. Do we have insurance? Are we going to get insurance? Adaptive management plan. Like, I think we should maybe think about, as grant holders, getting our own insurance. Like, as a complete group, and looking into like disaster insurance for us. It's just a thought, because there's however many grant holders there is. I would pay $1,000 in a heartbeat.
So you're saying that in direction
saying-
towards the Herring River, the Friends of Herring River right now, because
I'm saying as a group of grant holders, why couldn't we approach an insurance company and say, we want to have protection from this problem?
so are we taking responsibility for our own stuff?
I'm just saying, because it doesn't seem like anyone else is.
So we have to take our own
I'm
responsibility
saying
for something that we have no control
maybe the town would
over.
jump in and back half of it or something. If we were willing to step up, and it's just a thought.
So if you had an association that you can do that through, the
Yep.
WSA, you know, there are a lot of organizations like this, ARC, you know, stuff like that. It could be cheaper and it would cover more than just this situation.
I think that's a good idea, but I also think that it's people having to take responsibility for something that they don't have any control over.
Well,
Which, I
you
mean, we don't have control over a car accident either, but,
You have control over your liability.
yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a great idea, I think that, you're already taking on the responsibility when you could maybe ask if there was something already in place, you know, you're sort of being like, okay, I'll take the brunt.
I've heard this over and over again, though, Dave.
No, I
It's the
agree.
same story. It doesn't sound like we're gonna get it.
Has anyone looked into life, insurance in that way lately? Because last I heard, they didn't cover anything.
Yeah, it's
It
been
was
a
like
few years since I've done it, but it was a
Act of
dead
God and
end.
nothing else, yeah. They didn't cover die-offs, they didn't cover boat landing in the middle of your product, it didn't cover anything, it was useless. But maybe it's changed, and maybe if there were enough of us looking for it, somebody would wanna underwrite that, but.
Underrated.
I would talk to East Coast Shellfish Growers Association, because that guy is always on top of all the recent changes in laws and insurance. And I get his emails all the time, but I can't remember some of the specifics, but I know they've been talking about insurance.
Doing nothing, and if you did nothing, and you got to shut down a fecal coli at the mouth of the river, because it's migrating out, who's liable? And I understand they take the fecal coli things at high tide. Had they done it at low tide, you shut down yesterday. So bear that in mind when you're
That's a good point.
That's sort of what I was getting at too, is like, I don't know if that's, you know, I feel like that's just taking a lot of responsibility on, and it's not really necessary just yet, you know?
I'm just saying, doing nothing could be worse than
Yeah, yeah.
chance, and the whole thing is for shellfish.
Oh, you mean actually opening up the Herring River?
I'm saying doing nothing, you can shut down tomorrow if there's a dike there 2 years from now.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what I was saying. I mean, that goes back to what I was saying before though, as like, we all know that that's a really bad thing. It still doesn't answer the questions though that people have. Obviously, we need all of that. We need everything that's happening.
I say you weigh that against doing nothing. You
Yeah.
can say that you're
Yeah,
hope you're
yes.
spot-free.
Driving down the road is a lot better than
I'm not gonna
walking.
make that analogy because it's,
Oh.
pretty various, but.
I mean, overall, for the greater good, clearly this is a good project, but what's gonna happen if those guys get shut down for a couple of months, or
What
for
if
a
they
couple
got
of
shut down
years?
next
The same
July,
thing.
if nothing's
Right,
done?
and if nothing's done, they could still get shut
Who
down.
they gonna go
So,
after?
right, it's a
The
question,
people that didn't do the project?
but, right?
So, my point.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's fair to answer questions.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
Richard.
I'm just saying, it's a construction project. All right, it's gonna deliver this, it's gonna deliver that. It's a construction project. The accidents that happen on a construction project, we can't see. We don't know. I'm just saying, it's fraught with danger. Construction projects.
John?
From everything that I've heard tonight, I'm very comfortable with once the project is done. I think that the adaptive management plan is planning to stop any perceivable thing that they're monitoring, but what I'm hearing is during the construction, what happens during the construction if something goes wrong. It's all fine and dandy once it's done, and you're
also hearing that, and
That's why bonding might help the whole situation.
so I wrote here, what will happen, what did I write? In the first years of opening, I wrote something about construction. Well, what happens in the first years of construction, also construction accidents? So, does anybody have anything else to add to this list of things? 'Cause I was thinking maybe Zach would you mind typing this?
I think I got it.
Alright,
I got it. You want me to read it back?
yeah, here's my list too. And, yeah, why don't you read it back too?
So list of examples or potential issues, an oil spill or similar accidents can happen during a big construction project. Sediment transport, studies show upstream, but what if? Contaminants washing out. Oh, actually, I just wrote that down because I was thinking of it. I don't know if anyone else
Yeah,
had
they
that
did,
concern.
yeah.
Oh, they did, okay.
Fecal.
Depuration possibilities in case of a problem, moving shell stock. And if a construction company does harm, then what does it look like in the next phase, like how are losses recouped, etc. It was brought up the likelihood of fecal coliform getting from the dike out into the harbor, and we had an answer for that tonight, that the science and common sense, but anyway, that's on the list, that's one of them. And then the fact that the beginning of the project is the biggest concern goes right along with the construction phase, and when they first open it. And then grant holders getting their own insurance as a group.
Alright, I was just about to write grant holders get their own
Yeah.
insurance, and I wrote hydraulic lines / hazmat, moving shellfish for depuration, sand, silt, sediment, and its effects on cohogs. Can this project be bonded? Sediment transport studies, probability of pollution and fecal coli migrating from behind the dike into the harbor. In the first years of opening, will there be major problems for shell fishermen? What will happen to and / for fishermen in case of any of these situations arising? And what happens again in case of construction accidents? So I'll just give this to you, it's probably the same thing, but
Yep.
maybe.
I think that's good, unless
Maybe
anyone has something else they want to put on that list.
Okay, I have a question for you, John Portnoy. So every year, as you know, the County River area is closed because the birds come and get it, right? And the question to John is this, so there are all kinds of ways the initial openings of the gate could go. How long would it take, given that we already have an experience every year of there being fecal coliform from these birds right around the dike, right? So let's say, and nobody's decided this yet, and it shouldn't be decided yet. Let's say everybody looked at it, including everybody here, and said, we want to open the gates so that, let's say, for 2 days, 3 days, a week, there would be a huge in and out flush. In other words, it wouldn't just be a little bit. It would be a real cleansing flush. And then we can see if we're going to moderate that. How long would it take to clean out that fecal coliform that's there every year, but it's somewhat contained on the other side? In other words, you have all the salt going up there and coming back. Just a ballpark guess.
It's the matter of days, not weeks,
See?
just based on the circulation model.
Yeah, you see, this is already happening every year, but it's not happening above the dike. And what I think would be a bad idea, this is just me, but we all know my limits, would be to have that first opening of the gates be itchy-pitchy. Let's just all think about that, okay? Just have the thought, take it home, think about it. And we've got some hearing what we really want is that whole area to be drenched with salt and have its whole thing rinsed out. And to have the effect of the birds not being quite as drastic as it is now. And have it cleaned twice a day with the times, right? So let's just think about it.
I just have one quick question.
Because nobody really got a chance to answer before that, does anybody have anything else to add to Zach's list? Because of things that they might want to add to, like, now would be the time.
I just asked that last year, that
Sure.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
So when you were reading your list, you said about deprivation of shellfish. But the way that I had been understanding it, it was like wholesale moving of product and people farming in other areas. So I just want some clarification from the shellfishermen. What is it that if we're looking for land, let's just say intertidal bottom where shellfish could be moved, what are we looking to accommodate is my question.
I don't really understand why so that'd be just for the couple grants that are raised now, because if you get far enough out to close all of us, where are you gonna move it?
Right.
Somewhere else that's closed.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
I don't know. I'm asking for clarification so that I know as we move forward, what are the parameters that I should be taking into consideration.
So from what my understanding is this is as far as I know, without, if you guys aren't gonna say anything, is that it's so that they can either purge their shellfish if something bad happens and sell them, or have to move their grant indefinitely.
Okay. So
There's,
it's both.
let me clarify something.
Yep.
The Middle Meadow, Tingiani, there's 90 acres. 90 acres.
So what's your intention with it is what Nancy's asking. That's what,
I'm telling you, there's 90 acres there.
so your intention is to put a grant there?
Yeah, don't look small.
Don't look small, but it's just totally right.
You know,
Not just affect Egg Island, could affect everybody on Field Point. We don't know where it's going.
Right, so
We
what,
don't know where it's going, that's the problem with it. So if the seashore is so excited about this project, and they think it's so great, right? They can give us 90 acres, but we're not allowed to take it within the seashore. It's time that they get up to the plate and give us something that works for us.
so it sounds like you have another question is, can we take some land from the seashore and,
it's our land. It's our land.
Just that we're not allowed to hold a lease on it. That's all. We can fish it, we can do anything with it, but we can't hold a lease on it.
so just to
So the
stay,
town of Wellfleet needs to take it as they're in charge of the lease, and then the pieces within inside of it get coordinated to who needs to use it. So it's the town's grant, not the individuals.
so what you're,
But that way there, the individual has a portion of it that the town allows us to use to keep in business.
do you get what he's saying?
Yep.
Alright,
Yep.
This has been talked about since day one of this project. They don't want to listen to it because they want nothing in their seashore. But it's okay, dump what's in the seashore in La Habra.
so an area so that we could move forever, if we
Not
have to.
forever.
And it would be the town's land, not individuals.
Looks
And we
like
could
we're all
have-
gonna be moving over to Indian Neck now.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
so,
The town owns it. Maybe there's areas in there that we could use.
well, if that's, they're saying if that's,
We're looking at the big picture.
So am I. We own that land and nobody, and so
Yeah,
maybe
but
that
he's-
is an area that we could develop.
yeah, but what he's saying is if that's,
We're trying to get far away
if
from it.
that is also
Trying to get away.
contaminated.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, if it's gonna be on that side, wouldn't it be at Middle Meadow too?
Well, these are all hypothetical questions, so I'm just trying to get like just to write it down on paper, so.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I just
you could
wanted to
argue- you could
clarify, and
argue-
that was
yeah.
helpful, thank you. I
All right.
understand
Just
now.
trying to get the furthest away from it, that's why Richard and I asked that question.
So,
Seashore's willing to give up that parcel of land to the town to use, it means in good faith that there's gonna be nothing wrong with it.
Well, we'll have to see like where the currents, you know, how the currents go and where would be the last place that would be touched
All
by the
right,
outflow of the Herring River.
all right. Well, are you guys all set with the Herring River topic? Yeah? All right, we're gonna move on. Thank you for coming, and now we're just gonna go over dredging too. And
So I hope people saw in the Shellfish Crier last week, we are on target to have the federal channel and anchorage dredge starting October 1st. I heard some things here tonight that was important because I'm going to the dredging task force meeting this week. So I will be bringing up food-based hydraulic oil as what should be used when the Army Corps of Engineers sends out its RFP, its request for proposals. What else should we ask for? And somebody else had come to me in person and said to make sure that since these are very liquidy spoils, that the boat that is used, the ship that is used is watertight, so that the spoils can't spill out as it exits our harbor and further contaminate other areas. So these are two things that I have heard, and which I will bring to the dredging task force so that the town officials who are dealing with the Army Corps of Engineers can make these types of specifications in the RFP. If anybody has anything else like that, I would love to hear it because it all makes sense, and I think we should be as proactive as possible. My reason for bringing this up was another, but I think right now, since this was brought up, is there anything else that I should be bringing to the dredging task force?
when's the inner harbor gonna be dredged?
So supposedly, it's like, and then the following year, and then the following year, because there's two other projects. There's one that's the front and the back of the marina, and then there's the Chipman's Cove Mooring Basin. But right now, the town this 2019 town meeting put up, I want to say, $7.5 million. So now we're trying to bring on board state funding to match those, and we're already working with the state on that, even though it's farther down the road than the federal. But we have to begin with the federal, and the federal begins this year.
Do you have a start date, or is this just
October 1.
Oh, wow.
So,
And it's a very short window that they can do it because of winter flounder, because of sea turtles. There's a very short window that they can do dredging, but it can begin on October 1, and everything right now looks like it is on schedule for October 1. That's what the Army Corps of Engineers said.
cool. When are you gonna let us go dragging there?
Okay, so that's why I had dredging on the agenda today. So the Shellfish Department, I guess in the past, has allowed draggers to come in and work the channel inside the breakwater, which is usually prohibited. So we're working with the harbor masters, trying to come up with a way that is very fair to people and allows this resource to be harvested, but also allows the Shellfish Department to capture any seed and bring that to a safe place so that we're not losing any seed. The reason being that we want to get all the shellfish resources out of there before they're treated like dredge spoils and dumped in the middle of Cape Cod Bay. So right now, the ideas that we've had, and I'm here to hear yours too, is that we would do a lottery so that we would probably run the operations in April and again in September. We want to avoid it in the middle of the busy summer. And even though September is busy, Mike Flanagan feels it's important to get every last drop that we can out of there before they begin. And of course, I agree. So we are thinking about doing it 3 hours before and 3 hours after high tide so that it is the same for everybody, even though we know that tide heights will change. We're just trying to make it as fair and equitable across the board. So another idea is that the Shellfish Department employee will be on board to help get the seed, help work the pile, and make sure that everything's going smoothly. So a lottery, and in order to participate in the lottery, you have to have a commercial shellfishing permit with the town, a wild permit. So if you don't have one, you can get one before January 31st. And the other thing is, you can't owe any money to the town. So if you have any sort of citation, if you owe grant fees, if you owe excise tax or property tax, you can't participate in the lottery. So if you owe money, make sure that between now and the lottery time, you get to town hall and take care of your bills.
Can't we just go and dredge it? I mean, can't we just go dragging? So then it's not so confusing? We could just like when the sun comes up, we could just go fish the channel?
Yeah, when we're going with the lottery.
It just seems like a lot of,
So somebody's gonna get the best day and the other one's gonna get the worst?
I don't
It's like
understand.
opening day of, baseball,
I mean,
So how,
Like, people not
give me
having to
ideas.
do stuff 'cause they
I'm
were
trying to
running
create it.
down, that seems pretty discriminatory to me. That's
Well-
like- That's ridiculous.
I'm just not I just don't, couldn't we
we're
just,
trying to be fair and equitable, and maybe there's somebody with a big boat that's gonna knock out somebody with a little boat, which is what I heard happened last time, that it was kind of a free-for-all out there. And so we're trying to create something that was fair to everybody, and everybody got a turn. And it might not be one boat a day, be more than one boat a day, but, and then we just have lots of ideas for how to make it fair and equitable without it turning into, a bunch of boats trying to, creating any sort of,
I don't think I even wanna go in there. It's
I was gonna
just-
say, do you
so
care?
foul and nasty.
I was just gonna let any big boat go in there and I would not battle them because they're a big boat. Like, I don't wanna get run over, so.
so I'm here to write down,
Are you
suggestions.
gonna go in there?
No.
No. I don't know, I would not want to limit somebody, I mean, if they have a little, when I fish around big boats, I just stay generally out of the way. And
Okay, it's a pretty tight area. I've already heard from grant holders that they would like us to put buoys out to make sure that there's no encroaching.
I would see that.
So it's not like it's some wide expanse. I mean, you're only gonna have one boat being able to do circles in one area.
I don't know, I would just, I don't know.
You think it's pretty soupy down there?
Yep. I don't know, I've never dragged in there.
Have you had a lot of interest from people wanting to do it?
People have brought
Yeah,
it
it's
up
much.
to me.
When were you planning on starting this?
I'm here to talk about it and to get some feedback, and then, probably sometime February or March, we would do the lottery.
I don't know, I would just feel, I feel like I would just let it rip. That's what I think. And I don't know, Dan's the only other dragger here, it seems.
Like, whoever wants it, let them have it. I mean, treat it like open water.
Has any other dragger come up to you and been like, this is gonna be absolutely, I mean, it's probably gonna be insane, but I feel like we could handle it, like,
People just say they want access to it.
Yeah, I think-
They're not talking about specifics. I'm trying to come up with an idea of how to do it in a sane way.
I feel like it'll be okay. I should be fine.
You should try to open it oystering and then pull out your hand, the oysters are out there.
That's a good idea, thank you.
And if you wanted to take the seed out of there, you could, you're trying not to just like make us throw everything over the side?
Yeah, not over the side, because you're just gonna drag it up again. Or it's gonna get, over the side if it's shack.
You relocate it, so why don't we,
always done.
They could have the shellfish bars right there and throw it there.
could we deck load it and just call outside, like over on Lizard's Ledge, or like over on like, where you pick, in front of, Indian Neck?
So this is good stuff.
Just deck
Go
load?
in there, deck load, throw it full, and just go call all that out, throw it another load.
Yeah, have at it.
Call outside.
And then you wouldn't have a bunch of boats in there just like colliding because there'd be a point where you would just have so much stuff
One
on
guy
it.
in there, deck load, wouldn't take him long, and then let the other guy in, and,
Even a guy with a big boat, if they wanted to just like deck load and have like 10 guys on there, have at it. Oh, any little boat's gonna I would have to stop and go move out of the way because it takes me forever. So,
You have one outside the breakwater for the southwesterly winds and then something inside in case it's blowing. So they could feed that area.
Dan and I will only be able to make like 6 tows and we're done.
I don't think it's gonna be a big plan, but.
No.
Covers lots of all this stuff.
Yeah, when we'll be over there.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be like, I'll try it and I bet you I'll lose interest in like an hour.
I bet you there's giant cogs in there, that's what you get.
You guys could be out there to monitor it.
Yeah.
Skiffs.
Or the shellfish department could hire a boat and then put it all wherever you want.
Yeah.
If it's to the point where it's not even economical for a commercial guy to do it.
Great.
And dredge it, wouldn't hurt, run a puck bridge down the middle of it.
Yeah, get the command and just run the whole thing.
Deal with the cohogs at the end.
We could,
It's not like you're destroying the bottom, because
Right.
if you pump dredge it, it wouldn't matter, because it's gonna be dug out anyways. So in other words, you can get rid of the cohogs at the tail end of it, by doing it that way maybe. So, gotta think about more, feasible options to get it cleaned up. So that
I don't know what neighbors are gonna think about hydraulic dredging in that area. Like all the grants that are inside the breakwater might not be too excited about having a hydraulic clam
I don't
dredge.
think, who would care about that?
Well, if it's lifting up that gross sediment and putting it, like he's saying,
It covers everything up in there.
I mean, all of us dragging in there is gonna make sediment. I mean,
I know, but not with like a hydraulic, not the same.
I think it wouldn't be any different really.
I think you have to see if there's economical people going
Yeah, I mean,
there.
yeah,
Muck and-
you'll find out with us going in there. I mean,
Maybe you should have somebody go into a test.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
test tow. You guys could do the test tow off the barge.
Guess what? I think there are 2 regs that you'd have to run by the select board in order to do this. One of them is 7.15.2. Why did we leave this in here? I know. From time to time, with approval of the DNF and the select board, the Shellfish Department may open up an area for the taking of oyster seed only by agricultural licensees. Well, that's about people, private people, not private, but commercial people being able to do it. But I would check to see if you need to have the DMF sign off on this transportation, okay? Because it's taking of seeds.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
But that, not according, I mean, I wasn't specifically talking about that reg, because that's taking seed for private, and maybe this is something that needs to be talked about, because I was saying the Shellfish Department would take it, obviously with DMF blessing, and put it in wild areas around the harbor.
However, at first, you're talking about people being able to come in by lottery and take it. That's the reason.
Not seed. The Shellfish Department would be on board to call out and take the seed and put it.
That's why I was saying, I don't think that's a great idea, because then you have to have like a shellfish department guy with you, and like you guys, it's just like, that's gonna suck.
So it'd be another body working the pile.
It's not great.
You're gonna have somebody on there doing it anyway.
I don't even like bringing my wife with me, I'm like, so, I go buy my stuff.
You were on camera, man. Dude. Anyway, all right.
Well, I had some great ideas, so I appreciate it.
All right, can we move on from that so that we can talk about your employee?
Yes, so, before we go into the employee, which I really don't want to talk tonight, because I feel like I did that last time, and tonight I would just like to listen to other people's ideas and take some notes, and then I want to go back and think about it and talk to the town administrator and come back to you guys at a later time, So today, I want to listen, but I do want to just say 2 quick notes. And one is all grant holders should have received a mailing with a new annual grant report form. And we are looking to change the regulations to require that your grant fees for the current year are due the same day, February 28th, when your annual grant report is due. And I asked Dave to bring it up to Shellfish Advisory, and he's like, it's just not that big of a deal. So we have it on the select board agenda for the 14th, And if you want to weigh in at that public hearing, by all means, come. But I put it in a crier, I text messaged it out, and I did a mailing. So I've heard only positive feedback from now because people were annoyed that they weren't getting invoices, and then I was pestering to go pay Jeannie Mack because she was giving me a list of people who hadn't paid. So I feel like this is kind of an easy, no-brainer way. You know when it's going to be due, and Jeannie doesn't have to do 134 invoices. So.
What's that gonna do for people to pay for it all at once? Take the whole term at one time, right at the beginning when they get it.
Then you would know.
And then when that expires, you would do it on the February 28th. If you don't owe, then you don't owe for right now.
That's why I was like, this is awesome. We don't have to talk about it.
Right,
Just get it.
exactly. And also I just wanted to thank the Shellfish Advisory because you guys came up with the idea for putting the flag down the end of Shirt Tail Point when
Barbara did.
that front area was open or closed. So now that everything out back is closed and we have all the commercial fishing vessels out front, definitely pay attention to the flag and it'll tell you whether you can fish out front or not. If there's more than 10 boats, then we can't. We have to close it. So, but I liked that idea and we did make it happen, so thanks. It's a yellow flag down the end of Short Tail Point to the right of the bandstand. When it's closed down in front of the Harbor Masters, those rocks, that flag will go up.
Okay.
And it's only if there's 10 or more boats.
Yeah.
So last time I was here, I gave information about the Shellfish Department's need for a 4th employee, and there was some pushback and there was some back and forth, but tonight I am here to listen. And I am totally open to other ideas or other ways that you think that we could meet the needs of the department and the state requirements moving forward.
What are the state requirements? Do they like require a certain amount of
Well,
patrolling?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Patrolling, Vibrio checks. They're going to be passing on a lot more responsibilities to us
well,
coming up.
I'm like looking over the annual report and I feel like if you look at some of the stuff that, you know, I feel like we've made some recommendations that didn't get listened to. And I feel like some of this was, that would have like let the department use their, like manage their time in a different way. And we could have avoided some of the issues, altogether that we're experiencing now, like for grant inspections. If
Can you be a little more specific so that I understand?
well, like, you know, where it says like the overwintering thing, you know, we voted to recommend against the 100 rack limit. Like, I feel like a lot of times we had given information or given suggestions but hadn't been listened to, and I think there was reasoning behind some of that like the, you know, like where it says SAB, what does it say, oh no, I'm not looking at the annual report, the last minutes, you know, even in the annual report it says it. I mean, it was like, would violations written up create less of a need for an additional deputy? Writing violations takes a lot of documentation. So when I think like if like how we had like we're saying this stuff, it's like if like the basic analogies that I always go to, like driving down the road, I think like, you know, if you get written up for something you won't do that again, you know? And I feel like a lot of this stuff comes down to enforcement, and we all don't break the law because the penalty for it is too much of a pain in the ass to deal with. So we just are like, whatever, I'm just not gonna do that. And then you will get somebody who is gonna do that, and eventually it will get too much of a pain in the ass, or the like repercussions of that will be too great to deal with. So I think that's one of the ways that you could mitigate an extra employee. I mean, I don't feel like an extra employee is really necessary. I feel like you can work with what you have, and I think there's other ways to go around doing things. Zach?
I polled 8 different grant holders. I guess they were all grant holders, yeah. And they all said no to it. The themes were, there's too much downtime in the winter was something that was repeated.
Okay.
And in general, that the department could be more efficient first before asking for another employee or getting another employee. Along with that came like changing the process of inspection or the timing of inspecting grants. There were other little things about getting the fuel for the vehicles in Eastham was one thing.
We don't have a choice.
That was right. It was brought up.
Yeah, that's a pain.
And then around propagation, propagation was a whole nother theme, and just the efficiency of propagation, and is it worth it? Is all the manpower worth it, and how can we tell if it's worth it? It was someone was of the opinion that we should be doing hats, not buying seed, for instance. And 2 separate people mentioned they'd like to see a more detailed plan or some kind of accountability for putting the resources into propagation. What else was there? And then just the money. Someone pointed out that that's $50,000 a year over 10 years is $500,000.
It will add $11 and something to
Right.
everybody's tax bill.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that was the
It
thing.
will. Yep.
Another person said that taxes are too high already, and kind of along with that theme was that the department and in general, this industry doesn't need more bureaucracy, but less. And then lastly, and it was a big one with basically everyone saying everything is going well, and several people unprompted used the word babysit, saying we don't need to be babysat. You know, things are working well, and if you're a little short, I mean, enforcement needs to happen, but if you're a little short, 2 separate people said you can't check everything all the time. You just can't, no matter how many people you have. And that was pretty much it.
John?
I've heard that the rate was $50,000. Does that include benefits? Does that include the truck that you're gonna need to buy that employee because you only have 3 trucks? You're gonna need another truck if they're gonna be out doing rounds. There's a lot more costs associated with things going on that isn't just the $50,000.
Yeah, the town administrator told me not to add in the benefits, so he's the one who said to come in at 49. It was on the tier, you know, there's a tier that you follow. And there probably wouldn't be that many days that all 4 of us would be on together. The idea would be to spread it out, because Johnny and Chris are on alone during the weekends, and then when Johnny's on propagation, we wouldn't be asking for a 4th truck. We're getting our 3rd truck right now, and that's it, and we're working with the DPW on a 5-year change out to make sure that we get money back for it, because it'll cheapen how much we end up spending on new trucks. But we'll have 3 as a department.
I feel like too, the seasonal employee could be used more effectively, and I know you were saying that the checking grants for grant inspections in November was not a good time because of, that's when people are sticking stuff in, and you know, there's not as much stuff out there, but I mean, there is plenty of stuff out there though, and it's enough where you can get the gist of what's going on and still have those conversations I mean, I think even the conversations that that are happening out when you're doing a grant inspection, I mean, I know I could go to Jake's grant and I could be like, these oysters need to be split out, or like I could like generally see like the densities that he's got, and I could be like, I could make an analysis of what's going on. I could be like, oh look, Jake's got like that whole thing tagged over there, or like, you know, just by glance, like, I mean, I would have to walk a little bit, but I could do that, you know. I feel like for a grant inspection, I mean, I don't, you know, Aaron Francis had said something at a meeting of making a grant inspection not based on when you could meet us there or when it would be good for the department, but more of when the tides were available. So say you could bang out, like go from Logie Bay to the end of Indian Neck, walk the skiff behind you, you know, and get there early and walk the tide out, or walk the tide back in on the inside, you know. I think there are things that you could do that are feasible, but.
Was this seasonal employee doing some of the things you'd want for the new employee this past summer? Because
He was more concentrating on the rec fishery, so he patrolled the rec fishery on Wednesdays and Sundays, and then he did, he was Johnny's second in getting all the grant activities going and keeping the oysters moving and the clams getting.
and you would lose the seasonal employee and the full-time employee would replace, or would you keep that seasonal position and have 5 people on?
So right now, the way my budget is written, I kept the same position as a seasonal employee as last year because I couldn't be without that. But if we did get a full-time employee, I think what it would do is allow me to just hire somebody really part-time for the rec fishery. Because then we'd have 4 bodies year-round.
So you would have 5?
We'd have 5 for maybe June to September, and it would be really part-time just to do the rec fishery during those times.
So you'd have 4.
And then a very
fifth.
part-time. Like
So-
right now, it's 40 hours a week, and before that, I think it was 16. So it might be going back to it really just to cover the rec fishery during the summer when it's so busy.
So, yes. I don't know, I think that I'm just not really for this, and I think that it doesn't really need to happen. I think that it's,
Yeah, could you do some of the grant stuff you wanted to with the part-time person you already had? I mean, you seem like with this new position, you want to focus on Vibrio season a lot, and you have this other person already. Seems like maybe during the rec days, you could put this person on inspections that way.
Instead of propagation.
yeah, because
Well,
I mean, sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, it feels like a little bit, and I get the sense from the unity that, you know, it's almost like I guess babysitter was the word that was used before, but there really needs to be some trust between the farmers and the Shellfish department. I think you can't enforce everything all the time, so you really just need to trust that we're doing the right thing. And I think over the past, however many, you know, for a long, long time, people do, for the most part, people do the right thing. And, you know, when Vibrio came up, we all got on board with Vibrio, and I think we show that we, you know, we do the right thing. I mean, it's a big investment that we put into as growers, and I think we all work together to protect that. And, yeah.
Can I just say one more thing, and then I'll say one more thing, and then I'll call him Bob. I think, you know, again, with like the written enforcement too, it doesn't have to be like crazy. Like, I just feel like something you have to be worried about looking over your shoulder. You have to be like, all right, like I do have a consequence for this. And if that's there, you know, when I feel like there isn't any sort of citation, so there isn't any consequence. And if there's no consequence, then the same thing will keep on reoccurring, and you'll get the same kind of compliance out of Jake and Bob and Barbara. You're always gonna have that, but you're gonna have the same kind of negative compliance out of the same people if nothing happens. And I think for propagation too, I mean, I think propagation's super important, and I think it needs to always happen, and more of it needs to happen, but I feel like growing oysters to a legal point, and dumping them on the ground is easy. And I think any one of us could grow oysters in a little bit of an overdense bag and dump them on the ground, and I mean, you're handling them 3 times. And maybe switching a mesh size, so maybe 4 times. And I know from what I've done but just by myself even, I can do the numbers that you're doing and in a short amount of time. Or maybe I'll just like bang it out with another guy, like super quick, you know, in the summertime. And we do have other stuff going on too, so, I don't know.
I can't imagine how I ever got the job done in 1982 with one guy getting laid off on December 1st, and I was the only one on year round. But I think there's got to be a balance, and I think a 4th employee and then 5 during the summer, it's a little bit out of balance. The balance being, if the town has some extra money, then we have $8 million to come up with dredging, and that's, you know, gonna take 20 years to pay off. By the time that's paid off, then it's gonna be $10 million. So, and that's a big shellfish consequence to have that done. So I think the town's responsibility for the shellfishery, you gotta consider the dredging as part of that, and that's a big, so I'm looking at it as a finance committee member, the whole town. So it's the town's obligation to support the shellfishing, okay? And I think besides the recreational boats and all that, the accessibility and having the dredging done periodically is a big expense. So, and when you add an employee, the health, insurance, the retirement, there's a lot to look at that you're not getting anything for that. That's just an expense. So I think that would tip the scales. I think you gotta figure out how to maximize the personnel you have and come back and show us what you've done and the things that you've accomplished before you add on more. I think that's important.
Yeah, I know it's only $11 a year to each person's taxes, which doesn't seem out a lot, but the way I like to look at it is it's a $500,000 investment over the next 10 years into the shellfishing industry, and I feel like there's only so many times you can ask the town for that, and I don't know if that's the best way to spend that money.
Not only that, if we have a bad year too, like, I mean, there's nothing to say that, you know, ice is gonna come next year and just like wipe the wild out, and there might not be that many commercial guys, you know, and there might not be, you know, maybe there's not like there's any more grants being added, you know, so I don't know. Dan?
Yeah, just like everybody else is saying, seems like things could be done a lot more efficient. Like, for example, when I'm out taking co-ops in the river all summer, I'll see the blue truck come out once, the white truck come out once, the blue truck come out again, sometimes 4 or 5 times during a tide. That 2 different trucks are driving all the way out the river just to like look over to me over there, or I don't know, like nobody else was out there with me most of the time. So maybe just one guy sitting in the parking lot to check you when you come out, and could be a lot more efficient, cost efficient, time efficient.
Question?
Helen?
Thank you. To Nancy. So other municipalities with something going on with shellfishing, not just a tiny little bit. What are the employee numbers like in Chatham, Barnstable? You know, we've got a lot to cover. I'm doing devil's advocate here, but this number has not been put out during this meeting, and it wasn't put out during the last
Okay, so Wellfleet has 93 grants and 261 acres. And we have 3 full-time currently and 1 seasonal employee. Barnstable has about half the amount of grants that we do, 49 grants and 156 acres. They have 4 full-time and 3 seasonal. Dennis has the next largest. Dennis and Eastham have like 26 and 25 grants and about 30 acres each under cultivation. And Dennis has 3 full-time and 4 seasonal, and Eastham has 3 full-time and 1 seasonal. It's not easy to compare apples to apples because Eastham also does harbor master duties, and Dennis has like other natural resources, so it's not really exactly the same. But I would say that the town that's most like us in terms of grants is Barnstable. They have 49, we have 93, and they added a position to oversee their grants.
I want to be clear too, though, when there's 261 acres, you don't use it all at one time. There's lots of closed areas.
No,
and-
that's just Shellfish grants.
Also,
That's not-
Barnstable's tax base
So-
is like far beyond Wellfleet.
Yeah,
So-
that's a good
Okay,
point.
Yeah.
that's ridiculously far.
Right.
And I just wanna say one more thing. This is Wellfleet, Massachusetts, okay? I find this extremely depressing, without getting another word. We need to be trusted. I said this to Helen a couple of years ago. Don't babysit us. Let us do our job. We're gonna do it right. We wanna do it right. We have every reason to do it right.
And the people that aren't doing it right, we usually figure it out and weed them out.
They get weeded out anyway.
I would just say that we have a control, I feel like we have a very good handle, and I think on what's going on for the greater part. I feel like we always operate from a base of trust. And the one place where, I'll be honest, I don't feel like I feel like we could improve understanding what's going on grants. I don't feel like we have done the best job. So maybe what it is we're gonna switch resources around. And we have a high confidence in the wild fishery, and so we'll concentrate.
What does that mean, though? Like, you don't understand what's going on there?
Because
Like-
there are some problems out there. There are some problems.
Well, I know, but if you know what the problems are, then you understand where to cite them, is what I'm saying.
It's complicated.
Dave, I wasn't finished.
I don't,
Come on. So remember, I'm sitting on a board whose last activity about 2 people who broke regulations was 3 people hadn't read the reg, as far as I can make out. They misinterpreted it. They let 2 people slide who had broken regulations. Mike DeVasser was recused, and I was familiar with the regulation, and I had also read what Nancy submitted. Here's I would love total compliance. Everybody read the section 11 in our shellfish regs. It's all about the way in which you do penalties, and there are different ways in which you can say to people there are consequences. My favorite way is something that should happen every time there's any violation of any regulation. Because, Chip, there are a lot of good actors here. But, excuse me, there are also people who have never read these regs carefully. And the minute you have a kind of personal interpretation of the regulations, it doesn't matter who the constable is, you want it to be very clear that there is a punitive application of the regulations by a shellfish department. I'm not saying it's happening now. You don't want it to be, sometimes we'll randomly say to a person, you're out of compliance. It should be across the board and consistent. That takes a lot of time and energy. I would be perfectly happy as a member of the Shellfish Regulatory Board if the Shellfish Department, all 3 of them, anytime they saw a violation of any sort, were civilized, wonderful, and they ticketed, that I gave a citation, and they did it with the escalation that you have in section 11.
Yep.
There's a tier of penalty charges, and you have to pay it, or I would like it to be stricter. Well, the great thing is, you don't get your permit now if you owe money. But I would like it to happen sooner. What I do not want is to have more serious things come to the select board and then not be acted on in a way that supports our regulations, because these regulations are the regulatory board for shellfishing's regulations. It's like Board of Health. They have their regulations. Planning board has it. CONSCOM has their regulations. We're supposed to act exactly out of that. And guess which body of regulations in the whole town has the least wiggle room? It's the shellfish regulations. And that's because it's production of food. We're dealing with, the Department of Health, we're dealing with them. It's much stricter than anything else.
So
And
that,
I don't want it coming to the select board table if possible,
all right,
personally.
I think that that's kind of what I'm getting at too, with like the citation thing. I'm not talking about like somebody missing a corner marker, or like, I want to like be clear, like not to like, be like.
What if all your stuff isn't tagged?
What? What do you mean?
If everything isn't tagged, you would get a $50 citation.
Yeah.
Sounds good. That's great.
You don't
How
have
many
to.
tags does the town use on there?
You get what I'm saying though? Like I'm not saying like just like go like ape like over.
Well, it's either.
Jake doesn't have one tag on his thing,
Okay.
I mean, the shellfish, I'm not expecting
I
like
know,
you guys
but
to go
there
full
could have been
throttle.
many citations written. Instead, we said, we'll come back and do a reinspection and make sure you have everything in compliance, and that takes more time.
Yeah, but I
But I
mean,
felt it was the fair thing to
do you
do.
think that if somebody was missing a corner marker and you were like, put a corner marker out?
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens right now.
Yeah, that's what, I
Yeah.
feel like that's what the
Yeah.
department does now.
Reasonable.
It's
Yeah.
totally reasonable.
That's fine, but like, I mean, if somebody's like got like a load of like a jag of short oysters, or like they're over
Yeah,
their
there's a
thing,
difference.
it's like, okay, I gotta write you something, man. Like,
I might want to have a little bit more guidance on that at a later time. I will say that part of the motivation to do this was because I know that the state is telling us they're going to be adding more responsibilities to our plate, so I'm trying to be proactive. I see that there's things that we could be doing better. And then the third thing is that it's very hard to find good people, and in order to get somebody to kind of stay and work, you got to give them full-time employment. You're not going to be able to hire somebody good who's going to work half a year or part-time, especially with a tide that revolves around the tides. So, I was thinking about Andrew and the fact that he had been with us already for 2 years, and he has just been exemplary and a really hard worker. So I thought, we have this need. I see some deficiencies. We have somebody good. Of course, it would go out to public bid, because I have to do that. But, there was somebody really interested who would have been interested in joining the department, and we had already invested 2 years of training. So this is other stuff that I think about in terms of providing year-round employment.
I'm gonna wrap it up real
I
quick.
have one more thing to say.
I can't really,
I promise it won't be anything.
no, I can't, because it
Okay,
starts,
I have to say-
hey, listen, hey, dude, what the
In Chatham, they had to.
Chip, it's 8:05.
Deputize some shellfishing.
I can't
They
close it,
would
'cause I
deputize
gotta.
some shellfishing in Chatham.
Chip, what are you doing? What are you doing, dude? I'm gonna make a motion that I would like to make a motion to not recommend a new employee for the shellfish department. And would anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
I have a question before I vote on it. So
Yeah.
you said you were gonna go back, you wanted to listen tonight,
Yeah.
and then what was the next?
And then I thought, because I thought maybe there would be, maybe it wouldn't be full-time, maybe it would be more help at a different time of the year. I was thinking maybe I was just thinking of trying to be creative with what I heard. in terms of either sculpting a position that was less than full-time and wasn't gonna incur benefits, or having maybe more people on, or having another part-time seasonal in the summer to help us with grant inspections and stuff. I was just thinking about there could be something that wasn't full-time year-round. If I was getting feedback that would be something more amenable.
Based on my feedback from people that I've spoken to and being here tonight, it was a resounding no is what I have been hearing.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, I think she deserves more time to resculpt what she's for us.
To what,
Yeah.
sorry?
What? She deserves more time.
I think you deserve a little more time to resculpt what you're requesting. I mean, personally, I would like to say to you that I have seen improvements out there. I mean, you know,
That's true.
not as much as I truly desire, but there are improvements going on out there, you know, over past, department, endeavors, you know, so I mean, there is, you know, you're doing a better job than the rest of them. But, you know, doing your best job, perhaps not, but that's probably just because you don't fully understand, you know, the position you're in, and I do understand that, but I do see, you know, you're taking it in the right direction.
Thank you.
But it's, you know, it's still.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
You need
It does
to-
take time.
Yeah.
I think you still need
Yep.
to improve on what you got.
Okay.
Before you add to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give
Yeah, I
one
think
more
we-
person back there.
I know that other towns have positions that kind of get mixed in between departments, say like Orleans or Barnstable, they have individual tree wardens, and that's their full year-round job. And lawfully, a member of the DPW fills that position as part of their job. Is there some kind of connection that can be made between the harbor master?
I've thought about that.
Yeah.
Right.
I've thought about that same thing, so maybe we could write that down in the minutes. Yeah, Herring River Warden,
get
yeah,
them.
that warden is, yeah, he's, Barbara?
I just had a quick question, Nancy. I've heard rumors circulating around town that you want to add $1,000 extra fee to help subsidize this new person for each grant holder for an inspection fee. And you were going to use that $1,000 inspection fee that would be placed on the grant holders to help pay for this new position.
So that's,
Is that true?
that's obviously been gone through the rumor mill. When I was at Shellfish Advisory last month, we did discuss a $500 grant service fee, and this came up in Shellfish Advisory last year. We had talked about it, we hadn't done anything about it, so I brought it back, but naturally, because they naturally got connected together. It wasn't my intention, but there was some interest in the Board of Selectmen, you know, well, could you raise the money in your fees to pay for an employee? And my reply was, you know, no other department is being asked to be self-sustaining, so I don't feel comfortable doing that. But as we were here discussing, it kept getting linked, including by me, because it was hard to extract it. But I'm dropping that. The Shellfish Advisory didn't want to do it. It's not going in front of the selectmen, but it was 500. And it was just a suggestion. I mean, was it 500?
It was,
Or what?
it was,
I don't even remember.
it started with 100 per acre, then you changed to 100 per farm.
Oh, 100. 100. So somebody just added an extra zero.
Well, anyway,
Telephone.
I think we should make, what was that? I'm gonna take my motion off, is that what I do? And I'm gonna,
Do you not want to vote on it?
well, Zach, maybe we should make a different one, that we can come back to this in like
I
2
think,
years.
yeah, well, I think we can,
We don't want to do the full-time,
yeah,
and
right
I
now.
think I could go along with that.
Yeah, I think, you know, your
And
department.
then she still
and
has a chance to come back
Yeah.
again for something slightly different.
I think we're all kind of trying to come in together and do what's best for the, you know, the shellfishing industry. I totally respect that you feel like you need this extra person. Yeah, I just feel like right now it might not be the best thing based on what I've heard from the community and the amount of money it's gonna cost. Just seems that way.
So I have a question. This has been really helpful to hear from all of you and also from the board in just a really calm and thoughtful way. Like, people have spent time on this and I appreciate it. If you end up, so I hear loud and clear full-time year-round, no. Should I come back next month with another idea for something that might be able to help me enough during the busy summertime? Or I guess I want to take the pulse on
yeah, the pulse.
what, I don't want to spin my wheels for nothing.
Right, exactly.
But I am, you know me, if you ask for something, I'm going to go and provide you
Right,
with information.
What
Yeah.
I've been hearing is just, like Chip was saying, like basically everyone that I talked to was saying is you can do more with what you have now.
Okay,
And, show us that you max that out in efficiency.
okay.
And then if it's still needed.
I think a lot of the first reaction to it was, the shellfishing hard. It's such hard work. I mean, most of us are out there 7 days a week. We're tired, and then it was just the idea of having this like person that needs to watch over us, just like kind of there. And it's like, we don't need that. We're running businesses. Like, this is a big investment. There's a lot of risk, and it just kind of, I think a lot of people just had a reaction to it. So I think something a little more low key and different would come
So let me
along.
ask,
I would say come back in it in like 2 years. Seriously, I feel like you could, because it's the beginning of the first year. You could accomplish some stuff, come back to it again, and then we could be like, then you could like really perfect it, and we'd be like, okay.
I'd rather not have a deadline of 2 years, just because who knows what's going to happen even in the regulatory arena from the state. And I hear things that are going to change. I just don't want to be, all right, that's like, sounds arbitrary to me.
It's just arbitrary. Year and a half. So.
I mean, like I
why
said-
don't you just come, yeah.
So two things. So one, the overwintering, remember, I tried to find a compromise. It obviously doesn't go over well that I didn't follow what Shellfish Advisory suggested, and I am learning, and so I learned that. And so I said, we will bring this back up next year so that we can, maybe if it needs to be changed, we can change it again. So I would at least like the opportunity, at the very least, to bring something up for, the next year's budget cycle if we need it.
Which would
right?
be when?
Which would be next year, this time.
All right, yeah, that's,
Or,
yeah.
my other thing is that in my creative thinking about how to cover all the bases, maybe I would go and sculpt, maybe I could just come back to you with another idea.
Yeah, I think that.
And you can still vote it down, but
Yeah.
there is part of me that's like, already my brain is thinking, well, what if I get somebody who would cover just the rec fishery, and that would free Andrew up for, 2 days a week, and so, I'm already in my mind trying to think about that.
Yeah, I feel like you could always bring your ideas here, and it's nice. It's a public forum. People can come and discuss things, and let you know from our side what's working and what's not working.
Yep.
So I have to go. Do you want to make that motion, Dave?
Can you can you make
To
that
not
motion?
support the hiring of an additional Wellfleet Shellfish Department employee,
Full-time employee.
full-time employee?
Yeah, I'll make that, I'll second that motion. All in favor? Alright, I'll make the next, Zach, do you wanna make the next agenda with me? And just, make sure.
Sure, I can't do that right now. but-
Yeah, like maybe later on.
Do we want to pick a meeting date?
And a meeting date, for next month. What about like February 10th?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's at night. It's a negative 1.9. I don't think
no good.
anybody would be going. I don't know if anybody would be going at night to do anything then.
No,
Like
it's
checking.
February, man.
Yeah, I don't.
Hopefully everything's off.
Yeah.
February. Yeah.
Yeah, we can make it then for 6.
Alright, so
So
February.
6 o'clock here?
Yeah, or no, let's do it the COA if I can get it.
At the COA?
Yeah, if I can get it. At 6. And if not, we'll do it here. 6 to 8, yeah. Alright,
Thank you very much.
meeting's adjourned.
Nancy, appreciate it.